So what is next for Congress? Let's go to our headliner. Florida Senator Marco Rubio joined us earlier. Senator Rubio, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, so here we are a couple days out now from this big meeting, and we're trying to see where ultimately all of this goes with North Korea and Kim Jong-un. You have shown some skepticism in the hours that have followed this meeting. What are your concerns?
Well, I'm skeptical of Kim Jong-un, and we should be. Everyone should be. The president, as I said, is optimistic, and he needs to be. He's the guy negotiating, and he needs to make the other side feel like he's serious about getting something done. But for the rest of us who are watching and know the history of North Korea, we should be skeptical. This is a country that's made promises before and has broken them. And we're not talking about promises here regarding, minor items. These are nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles that have the capability of reaching the United States. So if we have to trust and verify, the trust part is important, but the verify part is even more important in North Korea than perhaps anybody else.
Do you think on these sanctions that China already is starting to go a little lighter? Do you have evidence of that?
Well, I don't know if I could say I have evidence of it. I certainly think that China is going to start pushing for some relaxation of sanctions. They're going to point to the meeting this week and argue to the international community that now is the time to lighten sanctions. China is going to try to elongate this thing. They're going to want it to be kind of a long, drawn-out negotiation where there's reciprocal, step-by-step concessions made by both sides. The longer this thing goes on, the more influence China seems to have, thinks they'll have. The worst case scenario for China is a quick deal in which the U.S. Gains influence over North Korea at their expense. They do not want the United States having more influence over North Korea than they do. And so for them, the longer they can make this thing drag out and the more concessions they can make America agree to, the more influence China will have over Kim Jong-un, over its outcome. And the likelier, by the way, that they'll be invited into the talks. So that's what we'll keep an eye out for.
Senator, I know there was a meeting yesterday with your colleagues, GOP senators, and the president called in. What was the discussion there? What did you hear from the president?
Well, he was flying back, so obviously been a long couple of days for him. But he was excited and optimistic. He feels positive. And look, that's his job, right? He's negotiating. You don't go in to negotiation and act negative about it. His job is to be positive and to try to coax this guy into agreeing to things he's never done before. The rest of us, our job is to be clear-eyed about it and to understand that we hope for the best. I mean, I would love to be wrong. I hope that I wake up one day and realize this is truly the beginning of something very different, and that North Korea is going to abandon its nuclear weapons, is going to abandon its ballistic missiles, is going to become a more normal country, is going to close down those death camps. I hope all of that happens. I pray all of that happens. And if it does, I'll be as happy as anybody out there.
Senator,
but I also have to be skeptical.
You've been very clear on the role that you believe Congress needs to play on any deal and how we move forward with North Korea. Does there need to be a vote on a deal with North Korea?
Well, see, and this is not one of those times where Congress is saying we want to weigh in because we want to feel important. Without the reason why the Iran deal, one of the reasons why the Iran deal was so bad and frankly unenforceable in the long term is that it wasn't a treaty. It was a political agreement that Barack Obama signed onto, and then instead of bringing it to Congress like our Constitution requires, he just had it ratified by the United Nations. And so when these countries come to us and say you're violating international law by getting out of that deal, our argument is you must not have read our Constitution. So that's why if we want any sort of deal with North Korea to be enforceable for the long term, I think it's actually good for North Korea to have Congress ratify, because then it becomes a binding treaty. And I think that's the administration's position as well.
They have to have a Loctite case to get this to Congress then. Because whether it's you or somebody else, you guys are going to go at this thing.
Yeah, right. And so that's true of any treaty that involves things of this magnitude. And again, we've done these things before with the old Soviet Union, with the Russian Federation now. But this one's a little bit different. This is a very strange person that we're dealing with in Kim Jong-un. He's a weirdo. Their government is strange and weird. And so things will have to be a little different here, but the verification part will be very important. But look, this is just the beginning. I mean, there was a meeting. They got to know each other. It's kind of the kickoff of it, but this is not the deal.
You said we'll know in 2 years.
Well, what I'm saying is if 2 years from now we look back and North Korea still has nuclear weapons, still has long-range missiles, and is still, not doing anything about it, then it'll be judged for that. It'll say, look, we tried, it didn't work, and now here come the sanctions heavier than ever. I'm not saying 2 years like we should wait 2 years. I'm saying 2 years from now we'll be able to look back and make judgments on it. I don't think we should make judgments 2 days after the meeting, because I don't think that meeting's purpose was to strike a deal. It was the beginning of what is going to be a longer conversation.
It's interesting, Senator, because you've been tweeting a lot over the past 24 hours, and some have looked at your tweets as not only a criticism of Kim Jong-un, but some have seen them as a criticism of the president, as you just did now. You called Kim Jong-un a weirdo. You said he's a total weirdo who would not be elected assistant dog catcher in any democracy. The president, he sits down with Sean Hannity tonight. He's talking about Kim Jong-un as somebody who appeared to be funny. He's smart, the president has said of him. So could you clarify? Was your criticism there?
No, there's nothing to clarify.
Was it anything about the president?
I mean, there's nothing to clarify. The president is the president of the United States. He was democratically elected by the people of this country. And in 2.5 years, people will have a chance to vote for him or vote against him. Kim Jong-un's never been elected to anything. He inherited from his father and his grandfather a dictatorship. He has murdered people. He has put people in death camps. Deep suffering by the people in North Korea. He has nuclear weapons. He has long-range missiles. He kills people abroad, including his own brother and others. And on top of all that, you know, it's just this whole cult that they've created in their own country. Their government is a cult. Become almost religious-like in its cult-like elements. It's a very strange and weird place. It is what it is, and I'm not going to ignore that reality.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just a fact. These are not things that I'm making up. They're real.
1 minute, 2 topics. Quickly, the IG report tomorrow. What is your expectation on that?
Well, we'll wait and see. Like I said, I don't have any expectations other than it be fair and real and true and get to the facts, and that we judge it based on those facts. So my hope is that it's been thorough, that it's looked at everything, and that we'll know the truth. It's the first time we'll have a peek at something like that that's supposed to be impartial, that will outline exactly how all this was handled.
Meanwhile, you have some strong feelings on these Chinese telecom companies and the threat that they pose to us here at home.
Absolutely.
You tweeted this: now is a good time to start getting rid of our Huawei investments, because while ZTE poses a very serious threat to the U.S., Huawei is 100 times worse. Hashtag
Absolutely.
next. What is your warning there?
My warning is Huawei shouldn't be in business in the United States in any capacity. They are a direct danger to our telecommunication networks. Anywhere where Huawei is, you can expect the Chinese have embedded backdoors to beam back information, to steal secrets from universities, from military installations, from transportation grids and electrical grids. We have basically invited the Trojan horse, knowing what's inside of it. We've basically invited the Trojan horse into the United States. We need to kick the Trojan horse out. This is a very big problem. They should not be benefiting from U.S. technology. So ZTE is important, and they're bad. Huawei's 10 times, 100 times worse.
Senator Marco Rubio, thank you for joining us on day 3 in our new studio,
Yeah,
America's Newsroom.
congratulations.
Good to have you here.
Come on back.
Nice to see you. Thank you, Senator Rubio.
Thanks.